Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Go to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, all right, dudes, we're rounding the corner, right? We got preseason game 1 coming up this weekend. It really does feel like Chargers football is back, but man, dude, we got an awesome preview of the team just a few days ago in the Chargers' first joint practice with the Los Angeles Rams, the Harbaugh versus the McVay. It really was a battle, man. It was awesome to see these two very high prestige head coaches come together to test their skills, for their new team going into the season, and they did not disappoint, man. It was definitely a fun day, I would say, for both sides, right? But in particular, the Chargers, man, we found some awesome success on defense this week. We've talked a lot about the offense and the potential there. Of course, a lot of us taking a back seat while waiting for Justin Herbert to come back. But the defense really got its time to shine in one of the biggest environments that you can do so in the offseason, actually playing against another team. And man, it's fun, man. We got a lot of narratives, a lot of things to follow in this story. The Chargers, who landed on top as the most physical team, a lot of plays in terms of, positives, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun breakdown today, and one that gives Chargers fans a lot of hype as, again, round the corner to the first preseason game this Saturday, man. I can't even believe it. Before we do kick things off, man, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. Newcomers take advantage of the special here on screen. As well as, guys, I can't believe it. This is where it really does feel like football season is back. We got ourselves some NFL stuff to look at here, man. Take a look. Chargers, these are season-long pick'ems, right? One of my favorite things to do on Underdog is pick'ems, and finally we start to see some NFL stuff going into the regular season. This is basically what you think the Chargers are, say, some of their players and any other player in the NFL is going to do over the course of a season. Do you got Justin Herbert over or under 600.5 passing yards? Do you have Ladd McConkey over or under 4.5 touchdowns? That's a question you guys can answer now on Underdog Fantasy. Again, use code DIRECTOR. Really helps out my channel, as well as gives you guys a fun way to interact in that support. Appreciate you guys so much. Before we do kick things off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Chargers domination in their first joint practice of the 2024 offseason. Man, dude, training camp's been a lot of fun. It's been worrisome, yeah, the injuries, which we're going to get to the tail end of this video, that is definitely something we need to keep an eye on. Keeps us grounded a little bit, but for the most part, I would say this turnover into the Jim Harbaugh system, the whole Harbaugh way, the Roman offense, the Minter defense, which really shined today, has been more or less successful. It feels like really for the first time in a long time as a Chargers fan, we are seeing something real in terms of change, right? And it's cool. It's really cool to see as a Chargers fan that's been waiting and begging for something like this for a long time. So in this video, we're going to do things a little bit differently than we normally do. We're actually going to take a look at some of the highlights posted by the Chargers on their social media and kind of react to them at first before breaking down some of the big things I took away from my research of this joint practice and some of the biggest things that can get us hype in terms of the Chargers' progression on defense especially. So we're going to go ahead and jump through this real quick and see how we feel about it, man. Here comes Stafford, who had a tough day, man. Tough day versus the Chargers defense, which forces an incompletion right there. Jasir Taylor, Asante Samuel, absolutely on fire. And there's, dude, our big guy Johnson out there, man, with the big touchdown. He's been great in contested catch situations. Followed up by a nice play there, dude. Chargers defense all over. And Nick Neiman with the interception. Another pass over here to Josh Palmer, who we're definitely going to be talking about in today's video. Another more underneath routes here. Easton Stick more or less had an okay day. We'll break down some of what we thought of him as well. And there's our guy, Christian Fulton. If you blinked, you missed him, man. Christian Fulton going to be a big talking point in today's video. There he goes, doing it again, man, against some of the best in the NFL. There's Puka Nacua out there, defended well versus Christian Fulton. Easton Stick often moving to his mobility to help the ball move there. Nick Neiman having another great play or two throughout the joint practice. Matt Stafford, again, not much room for the Rams, and a strip fumble. Ollie Gilman. We're going to talk a lot about that play right there too, man. Get yourself a slice of Gus Edwards if you're in a fantasy football league right now. I'll tell you what, that dude's going to score some touchdowns, and we may see another one in this video. J.K. Dobbins, who may end up being, the 1A, 1B running back one for the Chargers. Dude looks fast, quick. Definitely wouldn't be able to tell. He's coming off some pretty serious injury concerns in 2024. Chargers once again showing their secondary means business. Christian Fulton really standing out in this joint practice, man. He's been a shocker this offseason so far. Again, the secondary doing some nice work out there. But you know what's not being mentioned a lot in these highlights? Something that you would, if you weren't paying attention to it, you may have not even noticed. The Chargers' pressure absolutely decimating the Rams offense this game. There's another big play, again, with help from the pressure generated by the edge defenders. Zont comes down with a big interception. The Chargers would force so many turnovers in the joint practice today. Here comes another big play, turnover. It's batted at the line and picked off by Denzel Perryman. And the Chargers really showing the Jesse Minter effect of the wave of hype revolved around his philosophies on defense. It's really becoming a successful thing translated onto the field, especially in this environment. There's Gus again. He's going to be a touchdown machine this season. And the pressure getting in there. I think he actually booted it out of the hands of Matt Stafford. And by the way, we'll talk more about it in a second. Do not underestimate the receiving ability of Gus Edwards. There he goes again over the middle. Absolutely insane. And the shiftiness, the quickness, the fast feet of a J.K. Dobbins, who's been amazing. Oh, take a look at this play right here, man. Maybe the highlight of the day. It's batted and intercepted. Christian Fulton. Again, one of the highlights of that practice. Definitely bringing a lot of optimism, in my eyes at least, to what he could become for the Chargers in this season. So, I mean, that was fun, man. That was as close as to like a live game call out as you can get at this point, man. I'm so hungry for some Chargers football, man. We're going to get some this weekend, dude. It's going to be great, man. So let's go ahead and break down some of the stuff that we saw in that video of those highlights. Definitely check it out. There's more to be seen on the Chargers social media pages as well as YouTube. Awesome experience to see some, like real-time, fast-paced Chargers football unfold in these new systems, in these new offenses and defenses. It's awesome to see the team now fully syncing together and finding success versus an opponent that isn't themselves, right? I feel like it really doesn't give you the best preview until you start putting the pads on, right? Once you get the pads on, you start to see a lot of things, especially in the trenches. But two, when you start facing an opponent who isn't on the same roster, you really do start to see some previews of what's to come in the actual season. And what we saw was pretty remarkable in terms of the defense. Like we mentioned at the top of the video, the defense hasn't gotten as much of attention as the offense this offseason, at least from me, you know what I mean? Like, we're all excited about the new offense with Greg Roman and Justin Herbert and the new running attack and Ladd McConkey. There's a lot of change going on. On the offense, it's gotten a lot of attention, but on defense, man, there has been a lot of change as well in terms of system, in terms of, a lot of players as well. But, man, Jesse Minter is going to be a big reason why this team succeeds or fails. And also, another big thing is the Jim Harbaugh effect, which has trickled down throughout the entire roster through the success of the team. One big feature, one big thing that you're going to notice about the Chargers, one thing that I loved hearing in reading about the Chargers joint practice and reacting to some of the things that they had seen, was that this team is mean. The Chargers are a very physical football team. So much so that we heard that they dominated the Rams with their physicality this weekend. And that is just a great thing to hear, because if you listen to Jim Harbaugh and what he's trying to implement on the team and what he's trying to create with the Chargers, it is that bigger, tougher, meaner, physically intimidating team that right now feels like he's succeeding at. Of course, the Rams aren't going to be going at 100% right. Of course, the Chargers aren't either. Of course, both sides are going to have players not in, some guys sitting out, making sure they're healthy for the season. But when push comes to shove, the Chargers went out there and they dominated. Their physicality, their toughness, they really do look like a hard-nosed football team. And honestly, that is something that, again, as a Chargers fan, I don't know how much we're used to seeing that. We've seen a lot of toughness, right? Of course, living through the Phillip Rivers era, watching that man play through a game with the torn ACL, like we know that team has been tough. But right now, the Chargers, it's a new kind of tough. It's a new kind of identity, a new kind of physicality. And it really was on display this weekend, man. Big hits, big plays, big presence. The Chargers were all over the Rams, and this, again, showed tremendously through the defense especially, man. I'm so excited to see more of our guy over here, Jordan McFadden, number 71. He looks mean in this photo. That's why I chose it. But, man, there's a lot of plans in store for him. Maybe at fullback this season. That's maybe a video for another day. Let's go ahead and feature maybe the biggest key factor in this entire joint practice, in this entire video, that's going to get a lot of attention on social media, beat writers, et cetera, in regards to what the Chargers' new identity is. And to me, yes, you're seeing the edge defenders out there. That's a big identity piece here. But Jesse Minter is probably going to be a bigger aspect of this team's success than any of us had realized. And, honestly, a lot of us were giving praise to Jesse Minter anyway. We're so lucky to have him. A lot of teams were probably, gearing after him. Jim Harbaugh obviously gave us the edge in signing him. He was going to be a hot commodity among teams for a new defensive coordinator in pro football, and the Chargers were lucky enough to get him. And, of course, we understood the potential. We understood the system, and the excitement revolved around what he wants to create on defense. But watching that unfold and really getting to see it implemented and succeed at this level versus the Rams was very, very exciting. And this defense is, in fact, for real. And it's something that, honestly, maybe it caught me by surprise because of how high my hopes, and again, this has nothing to do against Jesse Minter, all to do with me as a fan and my pain, right? My hopes with Brandon Staley were pretty high. The dude was a guru, right? The dude was supposed to be the man on defense. And to see the Chargers struggle so tremendously under Brandon Staley for several years actually kind of killed my optimism a little bit in terms of the talent on defense. A lot of it was underutilized, misused. Of course, there was injuries and stuff to be thrown in there as well, but the Chargers just did not sink in the way that all of us hoped we would. We're like, okay, Jesse or Brandon Staley isn't our first choice, but if he brings something to the table, it's going to be a really good defense, and we sucked. We were not good. Jesse Minter, on the other hand, coming in here, yes, with high expectations, is already kind of showing us proof in the pudding, right? We're already seeing these new ideals and these new philosophies and systems succeed. And seeing it versus the Rams in particular, and watching these guys transform almost when you understand that, when they understand what's being built there, because it's in a different environment, right? You start to see the actual success of these reps and all the things that they're going through in order to understand the new system. It's starting to become clear, and that's building confidence in the players, and that confidence is translating into big plays, man. Success. It feels real. It feels real. The Jesse Minter defense is real. It's here, and it's finding a lot of success in their toughness, and in one particular aspect of the defense, their strengths. And the big core strength of this defense, which was mentioned by Jesse Minter, is those edge rushers, man. They know what they have. Jesse Minter understands what they're building on. They've got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. These guys dominated this joint practice. They've got Tuli Tuipulotu. They've got now Bud Dupree, and even Chris Rumph has been shining out there. The Chargers' edge position is ridiculously stacked, and it's a big reason why I think this machine was functioning as well as it did in this joint practice. These guys were disruptors. These guys were difference makers. Bosa and Mack, I think they got 2 or 3 sacks in that time. Stafford was stripped, I think, once at least. It might have been by Bud. I don't remember who got in there, but the edge position was absolutely ridiculous. And it wasn't just Joey and Khalil, who definitely were the biggest, disruptors from that position, but the other guys getting in there too, man. Tuli looks absolutely insane. There was a highlight of Joe Alt a couple of days ago of him absolutely locking down Bud Dupree. He looked awesome. Everyone was excited about it. But in the middle, you see Tuli absolutely finesse the crap out of Bozeman for a would-be-should-be sack on Easton Stick. And this dude, I tell you, man, every time I see him pop up, every time I see 45, in a highlight or something on Twitter, I'm like, man, that dude is nasty. He is slippery. He is fast. He's going to be a problem. All right. And in this system and in this joint practice, you saw a lot of him. You saw a lot of Bud. You saw a lot of, even like 3 of the 4 guys were on the field at once a lot of the times. And that was creating absolute chaos for Matthew Stafford on offense. The Rams were not prepared for what the Chargers were throwing at them. Now, sure, the Rams were not starting, I think, a couple of their guys on the offensive line. Is it Rob Havenstein? Is he down or something like that? I don't have all the details in front of me. But the Chargers offensive line, which wasn't at full strength, was also met with a Rams offensive line, which wasn't to full strength either. So maybe that had a little bit to do with it. But either way, the Chargers did what they were supposed to do in that situation, and they dominated. Right? Bud broke in a few times. He forced incompletions. It was absolutely... And this also elevated the interior guys. The defensive line was great, I think, because it was complemented by the Chargers' edge rushers. Tito got in there. I think he batted a ball. I think that's the one that was intercepted by Denzel Perryman. The pressure in terms of the interior guys, the Nick Neiman interception, right? His involvement, like, it really helped those guys out. The Chargers... They have something in that position group that really is the driving force of this system of Jesse Minter's defense, of his plans this year, and it really is coming into effect here as the driving force, yes, again, of the defense. A big particular position group that certainly feasted was the secondary. The secondary feasted thanks to the pressure immensely. Sure, the interior guys were getting in there, linebackers were making plays, but this secondary was going off. And this is, to me, a big philosophy that I would imagine Jesse Minter has, right? It's something that we were hoping to see in the Staley era, but when you create genuine and consistent pressure, it's going to force a quarterback to make a decision a lot quicker, and under that kind of pressure, a lot of the times it's going to be the wrong decision. And we saw plenty of plays where Matt Stafford had to throw it away, where he threw into coverage. To be fair to Stafford, the Chargers were batting balls left and right that were intercepted. It just helped the Chargers out tremendously in forcing Matt Stafford in position that is going to make it tough on him to make a play, and they capitalized. That's a big point I want to make. The Chargers secondary capitalized on these opportunities. And it's tough. It's not easy making a play on a swatted pass, man. It really isn't, because the trajectory of the ball is thrown off. You have to have really, really good focus to track, the ball as it changes trajectory, as it changes direction, and position yourself correctly to go make a play on it. And the Chargers did that consistently in this joint practice. They were everywhere. And this pressure, it really does help feed the defensive backs. And this is something that's really alleviating some of my concern into which the Chargers don't have a good secondary room right now. Yes, they have a good one, right? It's not as bad as I think a lot of us paint. I think the cornerback room is something that we stress a little bit, but we still got Derwin, we got Alohi, we got Asante Samuel Jr. It's kind of the guys complimenting them that we're a little concerned about. How's Christian Fulton going to be, right? He's a big project player. Jasir Taylor, a late round pick. He's got some potential, but how's it really going to look when push comes to shove? The corners, in terms of the rookies, can they make themselves available? There's a lot of concern in terms of the Chargers corners. And again, a lot of that was alleviated in this practice, especially Christian Fulton, man. This dude's making me a believer. The big highlight you saw at the end of that video of Christian swatting the pass picking off the pass that was swatted by Tuli, insane. And he was making several plays outside of that too, against some premium players. And this is where I get excited about the potential of Christian Fulton. It's not like he was out there versus second or third string receivers. He was going up against Cooper Kupp, one of the best receivers in football. He was going up against Puka Nacua, also one of the best receivers in football. He defended those guys like pros. He made several great plays, breakups. He changed direction and read plays beautifully. He was breaking on routes. He was absolutely insanely consistent in this first joint practice. And it gives me a lot of hope that the Chargers knew what they were doing when they picked him up in the offseason. I was very pessimistic about it. I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. I was really rooting for like someone to surprise me in terms of the rookies, which should still happen. But Christian Fulton all of a sudden is looking like the kind of player that the Titans were hoping to get so many years ago. Was he a second-round pick, something like that? It's really, really something to watch. And I feel like it was something that Minter, I think, mentioned in one of his pressers, that as his confidence grows, you'll see that version of him become unearthed. And that's something that as players understand that they have help out there, that confidence will help them make plays. And right now, the edge position is really stepping up and helping these DBs feel like, hey, we're going to have some opportunities out here. Let's go make something happen. It's awesome. It's great. So Christian Fulton, man, he's probably one of the biggest winners from the joint practice. Derwin James also was great. Oh, by the way, yeah, there's another photo right there of him defending Cooper Kupp. Absolutely insane. Derwin James was also very good. He swatted a ball there for Asante Samuel to pick off. And again, the Chargers, is that 3 swatted passes for interceptions? Ridiculous. This secondary group is working together. Derwin James unselfishly throwing himself at the ball to bat it in the direction of Samuel. Very much so something I want to see more of. Chargers out there making something happen. Ollie Gilman also. This is also the other thing. The secondary is not just breaking through in terms of, hey, we got ourselves some pick opportunities, but it's also helping them get involved in other aspects. Ollie Gilman got in there, man. He forced a fumble on Blake Corum. Henley, I think, recovered it, allowing these guys to play a little closer to the line of scrimmage and allow themselves to be that X factor that's on top of what's already a ridiculous amount of edge pressure is awesome. And I can't wait to see how Derwin James is utilized in that situation a lot too, right? The secondary was awesome in consistently disrupting runs and flat routes and stuff like that. It really felt like as the quarterback and the pocket broke down, those quick decisions often resulted in the Chargers having to play a little bit more underneath, and they showed up. They made plays. Chargers were absolutely insane in those situations. And then we're talking about nickel, which is going to be a very big part of the defense this season. Jasir Taylor looked crisp, aggressive, right? Again, he stopped a run on Kyron Williams. I think he got in there for a defended pass versus Puka Nacua. And these are very, very good football players, man. So Jasir Taylor, I mean, I feel pretty good about nickel. Him and Tareeb still are looking awesome out there. The Chargers secondary, man, they definitely feasted thanks to the pressure. Tony Jefferson got a slice too. I know he had a pass breakup. There was tons of them out there. The Chargers would ultimately force 6 turnovers, I think, which is absolutely amazing. That is something that the Chargers defense is going to very successfully execute, in my opinion. Taking that edge position and making it your identity and letting that effect trickle to the rest of the defensive positions, the every level, right? The linebackers and the secondary, like, it's something that's very real that we're now seeing proof of in terms of execution and success. I'm very excited to see all of this come together, man. Talk a little bit about the offense before we shut this thing down, man. Joe Alt, he was awesome. I think if you take a look at the Chargers offense, not as impressive as the defense, if we're being completely honest. And the offensive line was definitely not as in sync as we were hoping to see in their first, joint practice. But if there was a guy that stood out, I think it was Joe Alt. And the Chargers and its fans and its community, we needed to see something. Because I know, guys, I see it too. I'm not blind to the fact that there's a million Malik Neighbors highlights out there making people go crazy about the idea of the Chargers having grabbed him instead. I still think the Chargers made the right move, and it's going to be much harder to see, proof from a Joe Alt and excitement from his highlights. But we're finally starting to see some of that. He was up against some pretty good competition. The Rams have been historically at least recently, a pretty good pass rushing team, and Joe Alt did a really good job. We saw some good footage of him. Again, maybe stuff that went unnoticed because we had our eyes on the DBs and the receivers in the first video to start the this video. But Alt looked really, really good out there. And his size, his strength, technique, these things are all surfacing, and it's something that, again, over time is going to build our confidence in the selection of the number 5 overall pick. Okay? The rest of the offensive line, however, it's going to need a little bit more synchronicity, a little bit more gelling, I suppose. Bozeman, I think Slater was out there, if I do remember. I think the only guy that wasn't out there was Trey Pipkins, who at this time I think is he the right tackle? I don't remember. It looks like he's at the right tackle here. Who knows? Chargers, again, just like the Rams, not at full strength in offense. Either way, Joe Alt, good to see him find some success and alleviate some of our concerns, at least a little bit, right? Next up, Easton Stick. Easton Stick, I'm still kind of up in the air with Easton Stick. I think he's better than a lot of options we could have grabbed out there, right? But there's also better options for the Chargers. I read an article, I think it was Bolt Beat, talking about maybe going out and getting Ryan Tannehill, which is not a bad idea depending on how serious the Justin Herbert situation is, which right now, spoiler alert, I don't think is that serious. But right now, Easton Stick, it feels like Stick's game, it does heavily revolve around his mobility. He used that quite a bit to try and move the ball in the joint practice. Outside of that, his passing, maybe not the best. There's another good shot of there of Joe Alt, by the way. You're just not going to get the same play out of Easton Stick as you are Justin Herbert, which is not fair to Easton Stick, let's be clear. But Stick continues to be somewhat of a concern in terms of the actual legitimacy of what if we need a QB2, knock on wood, in season. Right now, I don't know if the confidence is quite there. But, hey, it's something that, again, we're going to have to watch. He's had a few tries now with the starters, and it's been more or less unimpressive. Even outside of the joint practice, he's had some shots, with the starters in terms of, Josh Palmer and these guys. Not instilling the most confidence right now. However, that doesn't mean that the offensive players weren't great. In those opportunities and in those good passes and good opportunities to make a play, I think they did a good job. Josh Palmer, I think, to me, is consistency. I didn't see anything too crazy in like big playability or whatever, but he's going to be reliable in a lot of ways. He'll be a guy that I have to imagine Herbert's going to look at and say, hey, he's open, or he's the guy I'm looking for, and like, I don't know what else to do. Let's go ahead and find number 5, get him the ball and see what happens. Him and Ladd McConkey, I think, are going to be a big part of that game for Justin Herbert. But Palmer, to me, be it unspectacular in the joint practice, was very consistent. And that's something the Chargers are going to need somewhere on the roster in terms of wide receiver, right? Ladd McConkey could definitely end up being that, depending on his health. But Quentin Johnston and these other guys, I don't know if we can look at them as reliably, as consistently as a Josh Palmer. So good to see him out there making some plays. Another guy that's been just, man, dude, absolutely on fire this offseason has been Brendan Rice. As far as the plays that he made in the joint practice, I'm not quite sure, but I had to throw him in here because there's a big reason, I think, why he's starting to really turn some heads. Just take a look at the man standing next to him. He brought dad. I have to imagine Jerry Rice is out there every once in a while, right, helping his guy, Brendan, elevate his game, and that's certainly a perk that the Chargers will take any day of the week. So Brendan Rice, his ascension has been awesome. I absolutely think he's going to be making the roster. I would not let him test, being snagged up off the practice squad or anything like that. Rice has been just a revelation in terms of these backup guys or these guys fighting for a roster spot. He's been amazing, and seeing Jerry Rice with him there too, I'm sure was very exciting for Chargers fans. I'm gutted that I wasn't at this joint practice because I would have loved to shake hands with the legend of Jerry Rice. Finally, the running backs, man. These guys look awesome. This is something that it catches me off guard sometimes because, yes, I'm optimistic and I'm excited, but, for lack of a better term, we're taking what the Ravens decided to part ways with, and we're trying to make it a featured part of our offense because they got other things going on with Derrick Henry and those guys, right? But it doesn't mean that these guys don't have big potential in a new environment, and we're seeing that unfold here, man. Dude, first off, J.K. Dobbins, who I don't have a photo of, I don't think, was shot out of a cannon several times. The dude can move. And one of the biggest concerns we've had about J.K. Dobbins has been his mobility, his health, right? We want to see him at full strength, looking like the J.K. Dobbins with the Baltimore Ravens for the most part. The guy is an awesome running back when he's on the field. And the proof that we're seeing, especially in this joint practice, is that he really hasn't lost much of a step. He's only, 25 years old, and it's really showing up, man. He could be a big problem going forward if he can stay on the field. Okay, and I think I've praised him enough that you guys know of my confidence in him. However, I am so done sleeping on Gus Edwards, man. Gus is awesome. He is more complete than I gave him credit for. We looked at him as a tank, as a short yardage guy pretty exclusively, but watching him here in this environment, catching numerous passes from Easton Stick and turning up field and creating extra space and touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. It's awesome to watch him work, and it really gives me a lot of confidence in his ability to stay very involved in the offense. Despite how good JK might be going forward, Gus is he's way more complete than I gave him credit for. He's impressive. He is fast. He can catch. We saw him score at least once in that video. He is awesome. So the Chargers running back room, again, like I was saying, maybe my hype wasn't as peaked as it could have been because, honestly, again, we're trying something here with the ex-Ravens running backs, but watching them with this Jim Harbaugh system and this Roman system and the way that they're succeeding really does give me a lot of hope that, hey, this is going to work. The Chargers run game is going to be a lot better, and these guys, Gus Edwards, JK, if they can stay on the field, they are going to be pretty good running backs in the NFL. I dare say, man, if these guys can stay healthy, the Chargers should be a top team in the NFL in terms of rushing. Hell, they could even be a top 10 team right off the bat in Jim Harbaugh's first season. All right. Lastly, to end off this video, I wanted to make sure that we all understand that the Chargers joint practice and their offseason so far has been a major success before giving you guys some of the news that may bring a little bit of anxiety, okay? We do need to address some of the injury concerns that have been going around since the Chargers, let's be honest, the Justin Herbert thing really shook a lot of Chargers fans, myself included, okay? So brace yourselves a little bit. Since the Justin Herbert news last week, we've also heard injuries may have occurred with some of the following players. Joey Bosa, who in the joint practice exited with what looked to be maybe a wrist or hand injury. Ladd McConkey, who exited practice a few days ago, looked like he may have injured a lower extremity. Trey Pipkins, Jamari Sawyer, Quentin Johnston, Kamani Vidal, these guys not practicing for one reason or another. I don't think I have any details of those injuries. They are concerning. It's a tough break, right? And we don't really know what's going on with a lot of these guys, but if you're Ben Herbert, you got your work cut out for you because season's coming around. We got preseason, which is very important this season, coming up this weekend, right? The Chargers have some work to do at getting healthy. But I have to say this, man. Something's a little fishy here, okay? Did I grab a photo of it? I don't think I did. Justin Herbert, maybe he's out here somewhere. Justin Herbert was out there yucking it up around the field in his boot, okay? And a lot of us, yes, we felt this horrible anxiety, this gut-wrenching feeling when he got hurt, that it's going to be a very serious element to the Chargers season in 2024. But I got to tell you, man, it feels like the Chargers' extra precaution really is coming into play here. And us as Chargers fans are not used to things going down the way they are. We hear and we're seeing on social media, it seems daily at practice that somebody's exiting with the trainer. A lot of the times they come back in a few seconds. All of a sudden, like, no! And then they come back a few seconds later. It's not something we're normally used to seeing. And it's something that I think Chargers fans, we're unprepared for the amount of players that are going to be taking these steps of caution, right? Maybe they don't practice, for a week or so. Maybe they are going into the locker room or with a trainer or whatever more frequently than we're used to seeing. Maybe it's not a huge heaping of bad luck that we're seeing. Maybe it's precautionary, like Jim Harbaugh has been saying this entire time. Everyone's working through something. They have a certain way of working through things, it seems. And that's why I feel like something is fishy here, right? Justin Herbert doesn't seem concerned. These guys going into the locker room, a lot of times they come back. This could be a ploy of some sort. Maybe not a ploy. Maybe that's not the right word. I don't know yet what it is. But it feels like, again, these extra precautions might not be at the level that all of us are making it to be in our minds. And that maybe the Chargers will be more ready than a lot of us realize. And maybe if they stay healthy for longer. because of these extra precautions. What I would ask is, again, I'm not a Michigan Wolverines fan, but if any Wolverines fans are in the chat, in my community, or out there watching this video, would you please chime in and let us know the kind of protocol that this unit, again, Ben Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, the same core unit, exercised in Michigan? Is this something that you guys saw frequently? Did you see players go out there, oh my God, we're going to be horribly disadvantaged, without this person? And then it just turns out to be, they were just, being careful, especially in the offseason before the regular season kicked in. Like, what was it like as a Michigan Wolverines fan with this situation? Let us know in the comments. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you liked what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. Get ready for Chargers football this weekend, by the way, man. I will be live for that one. We will be doing our normal, commentary. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys are wondering how to watch the game, I think you can get on with NFL Plus. I'm not quite sure where they're going to be streaming it otherwise. You can, however, definitely take a look at one of the new videos I put out in terms of ExpressVPN and NFL Game Pass. We were able to get that working again, which is definitely something. I've already signed up for it. That's going to be the way I'm watching the season this year. So if you guys want another way to perhaps even watch the rest of the season, not just preseason, definitely check out that video. It's going to help, I hope, a lot of people out get access to the games without jumping through all the hoops of the price of Sunday Ticket and all the other subscription services. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. We'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty, and I can't wait for the next Brendan Rice highlight, man. That dude is popping.